The massive spaceship called Celestial Dream floated through the dark space between stars. Inside its shiny halls, the richest people in the galaxy were having a big party. Lights sparkled from the ceiling like tiny stars, and music played softly in the background. Everyone wore their best clothes and talked in quiet, important voices. Park Ji-ho stood near a large window that showed the endless black of space. He was one of the richest men alive, known across many worlds for building machines that could turn dead planets into places where people could live. His dark suit was perfectly fitted, and his gray hair was combed back neatly. But his eyes looked tired, like someone who had seen too much sadness. Next to him, his wife Kim Mirai held a glass of fake champagne that bubbled and glowed with a soft blue light. She was beautiful even at 50, but there were lines around her eyes that spoke of years of crying. Her black dress was simple but expensive, and she wore a small silver necklace that caught the light when she moved. "Another boring party," Ji-ho said quietly to his wife. "Why do we keep coming to these things?" Mirai smiled sadly. "Because if we stay home, we just sit and think about her." They both knew who her was. Their daughter Park So-young had been taken 15 years ago when space pirates attacked their mining colony on the planet Kepler 442b. She was only 8 years old then, with bright eyes and a laugh that could make anyone smile. The pirates had burned down their home and taken many children before disappearing into the vast darkness of space. The police searched for years but found nothing. Around them, strange creatures from different planets talked and laughed. There were tall blue aliens with 4 arms, small furry beings that looked like walking teddy bears, and robot-like creatures with glowing eyes. The Galactic Trade Federation brought together hundreds of different species, all here to make deals and show off their wealth. "Mr. Park," called a voice with a thick accent. A large alien with purple skin and tentacles for hair walked over to them. "I am Ambassador Crix from the Zilonian Empire. I have heard great things about your terraforming work." Ji-ho forced a smile and shook one of the alien's slimy hands. They talked about business for a few minutes, but Ji-ho's heart was not in it. These days nothing felt important anymore. As they talked, Mirai let her eyes wander around the room. She watched the servers moving between the guests, carrying trays of strange foods and drinks. Most of the servers were young humans, probably working to pay for school or to support their families back home. That's when she saw her. A young woman was walking toward them with a tray of drinks. She had long black hair tied back in a neat ponytail, and she moved with quiet grace between the crowd. Her uniform was simple, a white shirt and black pants with a name tag that said Lee Hana. She looked to be in her early 20s, but something about her face made Mirai's heart stop. The shape of her eyes, the way her nose curved slightly at the tip, the small dimple in her left cheek when she smiled politely at a guest. It was all exactly like So-young. Even the way she tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear was the same gesture Mirai remembered from 15 years ago. Mirai's hand began to shake, and she almost dropped her glass. "Excuse me," she said to the alien ambassador, not really hearing his reply. Her eyes followed the server girl as she moved through the crowd. It couldn't be possible. So-young would be 23 now, and this girl looked exactly that age. But millions of people lived in the galaxy. Lots of people could look similar. Mirai told herself she was being silly, that grief was playing tricks on her mind again. But she could not look away. The server girl came closer to their group. She offered drinks to some nearby guests, her voice soft and polite. "Would you like to try the Andromedan fruit juice? It's very popular tonight." When she spoke, Mirai felt her legs go weak. The voice was different, older, more careful. But there was something familiar in the way she said certain words. Ji-ho noticed his wife's strange behavior. "Mirai, are you all right? You look pale." But Mirai was not listening. The server girl had moved even closer now, just a few steps away. She was offering drinks to an alien couple, smiling professionally as they chose what they wanted. Then it happened. The girl looked up and saw Mirai staring at her. For just a moment, their eyes met across the crowded room. The professional smile disappeared from the girl's face. Her eyes went wide and she almost dropped her tray. Time seemed to stop. The party noises faded away. It was just the two of them looking at each other with growing shock and recognition. The girl's lips parted slightly, as if she wanted to say something. Her free hand moved unconsciously to touch her chest, right where Mirai remembered So-young had a small birthmark shaped like a star. "Ji-ho," Mirai whispered, her voice shaking. She grabbed her husband's arm so tightly that he winced. She looks like our lost daughter. Jiho followed his wife's gaze and saw the server girl. At first, he did not understand what Mirai meant. Then he looked more carefully at the girl's face and his breath caught in his throat. The resemblance was impossible to ignore. This was not just someone who looked a little bit like So-young. This was someone who looked exactly like what So-young would look like now, 15 years older. That's impossible, he said quietly. But even as he said it, he felt his heart beating faster. The server girl seemed to realize that people were staring at her. She quickly looked away and moved to serve other guests. But Mirai could see that her hands were now shaking too. "We have to talk to her," Mirai said urgently. "Mirai, please think about this. We've been through this before. Remember 3 years ago when you thought that girl on Mars looked like So-young? And the time before that on Europa Station?" Mirai knew he was right. Over the years, she had convinced herself several times that she had found their daughter. Each time it turned out to be just wishful thinking, and the disappointment nearly broke her heart all over again. But this time felt different. This time the girl had recognized her too. "Just look at her, Jiho, really look." Jiho watched the server girl as she moved through the party. Even from across the room, he could see the nervous way she kept glancing back at them. And there was something about the way she moved, something familiar and heartbreaking. "Her name tag says Lihana," Mirai said. "But what if that's not her real name? What if she doesn't remember us? She was so young when it happened." The party continued around them, but neither Jiho nor Mirai paid attention to anything else. They watched their maybe daughter serve drinks and smile at strangers, both afraid to hope and afraid not to hope. Finally, Jiho made a decision. "I'm going to hire Choi Daeho," he said quietly. Mirai looked at him with surprise. Choi Daeho was the most expensive private investigator in the galaxy, famous for solving cases that seemed impossible. "Are you sure?" she asked. Jiho nodded, still watching the girl. "If there's even a small chance that she's our So-young, we have to know the truth." 3 days after the party, Choi Daeho sat in his small office on Station Gamma 7, reading through files on his computer screen. He was a thin man with sharp eyes and gray hair, known throughout the galaxy for finding people who did not want to be found. His desk was covered with pictures, documents, and empty coffee cups. The job seemed simple at first. Find out everything about a server girl named Lihana who worked on luxury spaceships. Rich people often asked him to investigate people they met at parties. Usually, it was boring work, checking if someone was lying about their background or trying to steal money. But this case was different. "This is very strange," Daeho said to himself as he looked at his computer screen. He had been searching for 3 days, using every database in the galaxy. What he found made no sense. Lihana had no official records before the age of 10. No birth certificate, no school records, no medical files, nothing. It was as if she had not existed until 15 years ago, when she was found floating in space in a damaged escape pod near the outer edge of human territory. Daeho picked up his phone and called Park Jiho. "Mr. Park, I have some information about the girl. Can you and your wife meet me at the Blue Moon Cafe on level 5? This is something we should discuss in person." An hour later, Jiho and Mirai sat across from the detective in a quiet corner of the cafe. The place was nearly empty, with only a few other customers reading or working on their computers. Soft music played in the background and the smell of real coffee filled the air. "What did you find?" Mirai asked quickly. She had barely slept since the party, thinking about the girl who might be their daughter. Daeho opened a folder and spread some papers on the table. Lihana was found 15 years ago by a cargo ship captain named Kim Bongho. She was unconscious in a small escape pod that was almost completely destroyed. The pod had no identification marks and its computer system had been wiped clean. He showed them a picture from an old police report. It showed a young girl with short, messy hair lying in a hospital bed. Even in the bad quality photo, they could see it was the same face they had seen at the party. She was about 10 years old when they found her. Daeho continued. She had been hurt badly and did not remember anything about her past. No name, no family, no home planet, nothing. The doctors said she had been in space for several days, maybe weeks. Mirai felt tears starting in her eyes. "Where did they take her?" A maintenance worker named Lee Junho adopted her. He was a good man who had lost his own daughter in an accident. He gave her the name Hana, which means one in Old Korean because he said she was his one hope for happiness again. Jiho leaned forward. "What about the escape pod?" Did they find out where it came from? Deho shook his head. The authorities tried to investigate, but there were no clues. Pirates had been very active in that area around that time. Many ships had been attacked and lots of people had gone missing. The case was closed after 6 months. But the timing matches, Mirai said, her voice shaking. Our So-young was taken 15 years ago. She would have been about 10 when this girl was found. Yes, the timing is very interesting, Deho agreed. But there is more. Lee Junho died 5 years ago in a mining accident. Since then, Hana has been working on different spaceships to make money. She's saving up to go to college. He showed them more pictures, school records, work permits, and medical files from after she was found. In every photo, they could see their daughter's face growing older. I want to talk to her, Mirai said suddenly. We need to ask her directly. I already arranged that, Deho said with a small smile. She will be here in 10 minutes. Jiho looked surprised. How did you convince her to come? I told her that someone had questions about her past. I think she has been wondering about it for a long time. They sat in nervous silence, each lost in their own thoughts. Mirai kept looking at the pictures, trying to match them with her memories of So-young. Jiho wondered what they would do if this really was their daughter. How do you explain to someone that you have been looking for them for 15 years? Then the cafe door opened and Hana walked in. She looked different without her work uniform. She wore simple clothes, jeans and a blue sweater, and her long hair hung loose around her shoulders. She looked around the cafe nervously until she saw Deho wave at her. As she walked toward their table, Mirai felt her heart beating so fast she thought she might faint. This close, the resemblance was even stronger. The way Hana moved, the shape of her hands, even the small scar on her chin that So-young had gotten from falling off her bike when she was 6. Hello? Hana said quietly, looking uncertain. Mr. Choi said you wanted to ask me about my past? Her voice was soft and polite, but there was something guarded about it, like someone who had learned to be careful around strangers. Mirai could not speak. She just stared at the young woman, tears running down her face. Jiho cleared his throat. Please sit down. We have some questions, but first we want you to know that we are not here to hurt you or cause trouble. Hana sat down slowly, looking confused by Mirai's tears. Are you all right, ma'am? What do you remember about your life before you were 10 years old? Deho asked gently. Hana's face became sad. Not much. Sometimes I have dreams about a big house with a garden. There was a woman with kind eyes who used to sing to me, and a man who would carry me on his shoulders. But the doctors said those might just be things my mind made up. Mirai gasped. What kind of song? It was about stars and planets. Something about traveling far away but always coming home. Hana looked puzzled. Why are you asking me this? Mirai began to sing softly, her voice shaking. Little star flying through the night. See the world, see the suns burning big and bright. But when your journey's over, and your travels are done, come back home, little star. You're my only one. Hana's face went completely white. Her hands started shaking and she stared at Mirai with wide eyes. How do you know that song? I never told anyone about it. Because I used to sing it to you every night, Mirai whispered. When you were little and afraid of the dark. For a long moment no one spoke. The cafe seemed to fade away around them. It was just a mother and daughter, looking at each other across 15 years of separation and pain. Mom? Hana said so quietly they could barely hear her. Mirai stood up and walked around the table. Without saying anything, she pulled Hana into a tight hug. Both women were crying now, holding each other like they would never let go. Jiho sat watching them, his own eyes filled with tears. After 15 years of hoping and searching and disappointment, they had found their daughter. But as he watched the reunion, he noticed something that worried him. There were scars on Hana's arms that had not been there when she was a child. And when she moved, sometimes she winced slightly as if something hurt inside her body. What had happened to their little girl during those missing years? And why was she so thin and careful, like someone who had learned to expect pain? Those questions would have to wait. For now it was enough that they were together again. 2 weeks after the reunion, Hana sat in her childhood bedroom in the Park family's mansion on Earth. The room looked exactly the same as when she was 8 years old. Pink walls, stuffed animals on the bed, and drawings she had made still hanging on the walls. But Hana felt like a stranger in this place. She stared at her hands in the dim light from the window. They looked normal, but she knew they were different now. Very different. A soft knock on the door made her look up. "Come in," she said quietly. Mireille entered with a tray of tea and cookies. She had been trying so hard to take care of Hana, bringing her favorite foods and asking about her life every day. But Hana could see the worry in her mother's eyes. Mireille knew something was wrong but did not know how to ask about it. "I made your favorite cookies," Mireille said, setting the tray on the small table by the window. "Do you remember how much you loved them when you were little?" Hana smiled sadly. "I remember some things. But Mom, there are things about me now that you need to know, important things that might make you not want me here anymore." "Nothing could make me not want you here," Mireille said firmly, sitting on the bed next to her daughter. "You're my child. Nothing will ever change that." Hana took a deep breath. This was the hardest thing she had ever had to do, but her parents deserved to know the truth. "The pirates who took me 15 years ago did not just want money," she began slowly. "They sold me to aliens called the Kethran Empire. The Kethran look like tall humans, but with gray skin and black eyes. They are very smart and very cruel." Mireille's face went pale, but she did not interrupt. "The Kethran took many human children from different planets. They kept us in a place that looked like a hospital, but it was really a prison. For 5 years they did experiments on us. They put things inside our bodies, machines and alien technology that changed us." Hana held up her hand and concentrated. Slowly, her fingertips began to glow with a soft blue light. The light grew brighter until it filled the whole room. Mireille gasped and moved back a little, but she did not leave. "I can do many things that normal humans cannot do," Hana continued, making the light disappear. "I can talk to computers with my mind. I can see in the dark. I can run faster and jump higher than anyone. My body heals quickly when I get hurt, and I do not get sick anymore." She rolled up her sleeve to show her mother the scars on her arm. But as they watched, the scars began to fade until they were almost invisible. "The Kethran made us into weapons," Hana said. "They wanted to use us to attack human worlds from the inside, but some of us escaped before they could finish their training." Mireille was crying now, but not from fear. She was crying because of the pain her daughter had suffered. "How did you escape?" she asked softly. "There was a boy named Nam Taman who was older than the rest of us. He had been there longer and learned how to control his abilities. One night he broke us out of our cells and helped us steal an escape pod. Most of us made it away, but we had to split up so the Kethran could not find us all." Hana stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the garden where she used to play as a child. "I have been hiding ever since, trying to live a normal life. But I am not normal anymore, Mom. I am something they made in their laboratory. I am not really your daughter anymore." Before Mireille could answer, there was a loud crash from downstairs. Then they heard Jiho shouting and the sound of running feet. "Stay here," Hana said, but Mireille was already following her toward the door. They ran downstairs and found Jiho standing in the living room with a young man who looked about the same age as Hana. The stranger was tall and thin, with short black hair and nervous eyes. He was breathing hard like he had been running. "So young," the young man said when he saw Hana. "Thank God I found you." "We are in terrible danger, Timine," Hana said with surprise. "How did you find me?" "I have been tracking the news reports about rich families finding their missing children. 3 other families have found their kids in the past month, all of them children who were taken by the Kethran." Taman looked around the room nervously. "Someone is watching all of us." Jiho moved protectively in front of his wife. "Who is this person, Soyoung?" "This is Nam Taman, the boy who saved us," Hana explained quickly. "Taman, these are my parents." Taman bowed politely, but his face was still worried. "Mr. and Mrs. Park, I am sorry to meet you like this, but we have a big problem. The Kethran are coming." "What do you mean?" Jiho asked. "I have been in contact with the other escaped children. We call ourselves the Returned. Most of us have been found by our families in the past few months, all across human space. At first we thought it was just good luck." Taman pulled out a small device that looked like a phone, but glowed with the same blue light as Hana's fingers. "Then Dr. Yoon Subin contacted me. She is a scientist who has been studying alien technology. She discovered something terrible. The Kethran have been watching us this whole time. They wanted us to be found by our families." "Why?" Mireille asked, though she was afraid to hear the answer. "Because our families are important people. Rich, powerful, connected to the government or the military. The Kethran plan to use us to get information about human defenses. They think they can control us from far away using the technology they put inside us." Hana felt sick. You mean they let me find my parents just so they could spy on them? That was their plan, Taman said. But they made a mistake. They thought the technology they put in us would make us obey them. Instead, it made us stronger. And now we can use their own weapons against them. He touched his device and a holographic image appeared in the air above it. It showed a map of the galaxy with red dots scattered across human territory. These are all the returned, about 40 of us that we know of. We have been working together in secret, learning how to use our abilities. Some of us can hack into any computer system. Others can communicate across vast distances without using radios or phones. A few can even control alien technology. But why are you here? Jiho asked. What is the danger you mentioned? Taman's face became very serious. Because Dr. Subin intercepted a message from the Kethran Empire. They are sending a huge fleet to attack Earth and the other main human worlds. They think their sleeper agents, us, will sabotage our defenses from the inside. When? Hana asked, though she already knew the answer would be bad. 6 months. Maybe less. The room fell silent. Outside they could hear birds singing and children playing, normal sounds of a peaceful world that had no idea what was coming. What can we do? Mirai asked quietly. Taman smiled for the first time since he had arrived. We fight back. The Kethran think they made us into their slaves. Instead, they gave us the tools to defeat them. We know their technology. We understand their weaknesses, and we have something they do not understand. What? Jiho asked. We have families who love us, Hana said, understanding what Taman meant. We have something worth fighting for. Taman nodded. The Kethran are about to learn that you should never underestimate humans, especially when you hurt their children. 3 months had passed since Taman's warning, and the Park family mansion had become the secret headquarters for the most important fight in human history. The house was full of activity day and night, with people coming and going through hidden entrances that Jiho had built, using his construction company. In the basement, which had been turned into a high-tech command center, Hana sat at a table covered with strange alien devices. Her fingers glowed blue as she worked on a piece of Kethran technology, trying to understand how it worked. Across from her, a young woman named Kang Hyunwoo was drawing plans for new weapons on a large computer screen. Hyunwoo had been found by her family 2 months ago. She was 25 years old now, and had become one of the best engineers in human space, though no one knew her success came from alien technology in her brain. Her enhancements let her understand any machine just by looking at it, and she could design new inventions faster than any human computer. I think I figured out how their communication system works, Hana said, holding up a small silver device. If we can build copies of this, we can listen to their messages and maybe even send false orders to their ships. At another table, a quiet young woman named Shin Nari was sitting with her eyes closed, her hands resting on a large alien crystal that pulsed with green light. She looked peaceful, but Hana knew she was actually using her mind to travel through space, searching for Kethran ships and listening to their secret conversations. Nari's family had found her working as a translator on a diplomatic station. She could speak any language after hearing it just once, but her real gift was much more powerful. The Kethran experiments had connected her mind to their communication networks, allowing her to spy on them from anywhere in the galaxy. I can hear them, Nari said without opening her eyes. Their fleet is bigger than we thought. At least 300 ships, maybe more. And they have allies. And what kind of allies? Asked Dr. Yoon Subin, who was studying data on her tablet computer. The doctor was a small woman with gray hair and tired eyes, but she was the smartest person any of them had ever met. She had been secretly researching alien technology for years, trying to understand how it worked. Other alien species who are afraid of humans, Nari replied. They think we are growing too powerful, spreading to too many worlds. The Kethran convinced them that humans will take over the galaxy if someone does not stop us. Taman, who had been standing by the big screen showing a map of human space, turned around with a worried expression. How long do we have? 2 months, Nari said, finally opening her eyes. Maybe less. They are gathering their forces at a secret base near the edge of our territory. The room fell quiet. Everyone knew they were running out of time. What about the human military? Asked Hyunwoo. Are they ready? Jiho, who had just walked down the stairs carrying coffee for everyone, shook his head sadly. I talked to Admiral Jian Woojin yesterday. He is my old friend from when we served together in the Navy. He believes us about the threat. but most of the other commanders think we are crazy. They do not want to believe that aliens have been taking our children for experiments, Dr. Subin added. It sounds too much like a scary story to them, but Jiho had not given up. He had used his money and connections to secretly help prepare Earth's defenses. His terraforming company had built hidden weapons on several planets, disguised as mining equipment or construction projects. He had also been quietly moving military supplies to places where they would be needed most. Admiral Wu Jin is doing what he can, Jiho continued. He has moved more ships to guard the main human worlds, and he is training his officers for the kind of fighting the Kethran use. But we will still be badly outnumbered. That is why we have to be smart instead of just strong, Taman said. He had grown into the leader of the Returned, coordinating their efforts across dozens of worlds. The Kethran think they know everything about us because they created us. But they do not understand what makes humans special. Over the past months, more of the Returned had been found and brought into their secret network. Each one had different abilities given to them by the alien experiments. Some could control machines with their thoughts. Others were incredibly strong, or could see things happening far away. A few could even predict what enemies would do before they did it. But the most amazing discovery was that regular humans, the families and friends of the Returned, were also developing new abilities. Not from alien technology, but from something inside humanity itself that no one had ever noticed before. Mireille walked down the stairs carrying a plate of sandwiches. Over the past months, she had changed from a sad woman who mourned her lost daughter into a fierce mother ready to fight for her family. She had been working with other parents of the Returned, forming a support network that stretched across human space. I just got a message from Captain Oh Sungmin's mother, she said. Her son is leading a group of young military officers who want to help us. They do not have alien enhancements, but they have been practicing new fighting techniques that seem to work against Kethran technology. This was the most surprising thing they had discovered. When humans were pushed to their limits, when they had something important to protect, they could do things that seemed impossible. Ordinary people were lifting weights they should not be able to move, solving problems faster than computers, and working together in ways that confused even the smartest scientists. Dr. Subin had a theory about it, but she was not sure yet if she was right. I think the Kethran experiments did something to all of humanity. Not just the children they took, she explained to the group. When they changed our kids, they may have accidentally awakened something in our entire species. Something that was always there but sleeping. Suddenly alarms began ringing throughout the house. Nari's eyes snapped open and her face went white with fear. They are coming early, she said, her voice shaking. The Kethran fleet just entered human space. They will be here in 3 days. Everyone in the room looked at each other with a mixture of fear and determination. They had been preparing for months, but it still did not feel like enough time. Are we ready? Jiho asked quietly. Taman looked around at all the people who had become his family. Not just the Returned, but their parents and friends, and everyone who had helped them prepare for this moment. They were just a small group of people in a basement, facing an enemy with hundreds of ships and thousands of years of experience in war. But they had something the Kethran did not understand. They had love for each other, and they had the stubborn human refusal to give up even when everything seemed hopeless. We will never be ready, Taman said with a small smile, but we are human. Being ready is not what we do best. Fighting back when we are not ready, that is what we do best. Outside, they could hear the sound of military ships flying overhead, rushing to defend Earth. The greatest battle in human history was about to begin, and a group of kidnapped children and their families were going to be right in the middle of it. The skies above Earth turned black with alien ships. From her position in the underground command center, Hana could feel the vibrations as hundreds of Kethran vessels dropped out of hyperspace and began their attack on humanity's homeworld. The walls shook, and dust fell from the ceiling as energy weapons fired from orbit. They are here, Nari said, her voice eerily calm as her mind traveled through the enemy communication networks. Commander Veltar is leading the attack personally. He is very confident this will be an easy victory. Hana sat at the main control station, her hands glowing blue as she connected her mind to Earth's entire defense network. Through cameras and sensors across the planet, she could see everything that was happening. Kethran fighters were sweeping down from space, attacking military bases and cities. Their ships looked like giant black insects with glowing red eyes. "How many?" asked Admiral John Woojin through the communication system. He was commanding the human fleet from his flagship in orbit, but his ships were badly outnumbered. 347 large ships, plus about 2,000 fighters, Hana replied. "But Admiral, I can see a weakness in their formation. They are grouped too closely together because they think we cannot hurt them." On the screen in front of her, she could see the positions of all the human ships, only 63 vessels against an enemy fleet 5 times larger. It should have been impossible to win, but Hana smiled as she watched the battle begin. "All returned units, this is So-young," she said into her communicator, using her birth name for the first time in years. "It is time to show them what humans can really do." Across the solar system, the enhanced humans began to act. Yunwoo, who was aboard a human battlecruiser, placed her hands on the ship's main computer. Instantly, every weapon on the ship began firing with perfect accuracy, hitting targets that should have been impossible to reach. The ship's engines also became twice as powerful as they were designed to be. Taemin was leading a boarding party onto a Kethron ship. His enhanced speed and strength let him move through the alien corridors like lightning, disabling enemy soldiers before they could react. But more importantly, he was hacking into their computer systems and sending false orders to other Kethron ships. Enemy vessels. "This is Commander Veltar," he said, perfectly copying the alien leader's voice. "All ships move to attack Formation 7. Ignore the small human fighters." The Kethron ships, trained to follow orders without question, immediately changed their positions. This left them open to attacks from human fighters that they were now ignoring. But the real surprise came from the regular humans. Captain Oh, Seungmin was flying a small fighter that was badly damaged and should have been destroyed minutes ago. But something incredible was happening. Every time a Kethron weapon fired at him, he seemed to know exactly where to move to avoid it. His own weapons never missed, no matter how impossible the shot. "I can see what they are going to do before they do it," he said over the radio, his voice filled with amazement. "It is like I am reading their minds." Similar reports were coming from human soldiers and pilots all over the battle. People who had never shown any special abilities were suddenly performing impossible feats. Engineers were fixing damaged ships in minutes instead of hours. Doctors were healing wounded soldiers so quickly it looked like magic. Computer experts were breaking alien codes that should have taken years to solve. Dr. Subin, who was monitoring everything from the command center, smiled as she watched her theory prove correct. "The Kethran experiments did not just change our children," she explained to Jiho and Mirai as they watched the battle unfold. "They accidentally awakened something in all of humanity. We are evolving, becoming something new, and we are doing it in the middle of the fight." On the main screen, they could see Commander Veltar's flagship, a massive ship that was 3 times larger than any human vessel. The alien commander was becoming increasingly frustrated as his perfect plan fell apart. "How are they doing this?" Veltar's voice crackled through the captured communications. "Our intelligence said humans were weak, divided, easy to control. These are not the same species we studied." Hana stood up from her chair, her whole body now glowing with blue light. She had connected her mind not just to Earth's defenses, but to every human in the solar system. She could feel their thoughts, their courage, their determination to protect their families and their home. "That is because you never really understood us," she said, knowing that Veltar could hear her through the communication network. "You saw our children as tools to be used. But humans are not tools. We are family." As if responding to her words, something amazing happened. Every human in the battle suddenly seemed to know what every other human was thinking. Pilots coordinated their attacks without talking. Engineers on different ships worked together to solve problems. Soldiers moved as one unit, anticipating each other's actions perfectly. The Kethran had spent thousands of years perfecting their technology and their military tactics, but they had never fought an enemy that could think as one mind while still keeping their individual creativity and determination. "All human ships, this is Admiral Woojin," came the voice over the radio. "Something wonderful is happening. We are not just fighting together anymore. We are fighting as one people, one family, one species that refuses to be broken." The tide of battle turned quickly after that. Kethran ships that had seemed invincible were being destroyed by human weapons that suddenly worked better than they were designed to. Alien soldiers who had never been defeated were surrendering to human boarding parties led by people who moved like ghosts and fought like legends. Commander, Veltar's flagship tried to escape as his fleet crumbled around him. But Hana was faster. Using her connection to every computer in the solar system, she shut down his ship's engines and weapons. "This is impossible," Veltar said in his final transmission.
"What are you?"
"How did you become so powerful so quickly?" Hana's voice, amplified through every communication system in the solar system, answered him with words that would be remembered for generations. "We are humanity. We take the worst things that happen to us and turn them into our greatest strengths. You tried to make us weak by hurting our children. Instead, you made us stronger by giving us something to fight for. And we do not break. We never break." The Battle of Sol ended 6 hours after it began. The Kethran fleet was either destroyed or captured, and news of humanity's victory spread quickly to every corner of the galaxy. Other alien species, who had planned to join the attack on human worlds, suddenly decided they had more important things to do elsewhere. 3 days later, Hana sat in her childhood bedroom again, but this time she did not feel like a stranger. Mireille was brushing her daughter's hair, just like she used to do when So-Young was little. Jiho was reading reports from across human space, stories of people discovering new abilities, of communities working together in ways that seemed magical, of a species that had been changed forever by the greatest challenge it had ever faced. "What happens now?" Mireille asked quietly. "Now we help others," Hana replied. "There are probably children from other species who were taken by the Kethran or other enemies. We will find them and bring them home, just like we found each other." Outside the window, Earth looked exactly the same as it always had, but the people living on it were different now. They had discovered that when humans were pushed to their limits, those limits could be broken. When they had something worth fighting for, they could do impossible things. And when they worked together as one family, one species, one people, there was nothing in the galaxy that could stop them. The little girl who had been taken by pirates 15 years ago had returned home as something greater than anyone had imagined possible, and in saving herself she had helped save all of humanity.